You know that feeling when you scroll through a dozen laptop listings, see a sleek metal chassis, a big bright screen, and the promise of mobile workstation power, only to get it home and discover the keyboard is a mushy mess, the battery barely lasts a meeting, or the performance stalls the moment you open a CAD file? I've been there, and that hesitation is exactly why I'm doing this deep dive before you click buy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last week testing the HP ZBook Firefly G11 the way a freelance engineer or a traveling video editor would, plugging in external monitors, running a few rendering passes, and dragging heavy Photoshop files around a coffee shop. What I found is a mix of genuine strengths and a few hidden trade-offs that can make or break the purchase depending on how you plan to use it. First off, the biggest draw of the Firefly line is that it's trying to be a true workstation on the go. The 16-inch WUXGA display hits 1920x1200, which gives you a bit more vertical real estate than a plain 1080p panel. In practice, that extra 200 pixels means you can see more of a timeline in Premiere Pro without constantly scrolling, and you get a slightly sharper view of architectural drawings when you're on a site. The color accuracy isn't factory calibrated to the level of a MacBook Pro, but it's close enough for day-to-day design work if you enable the sRGB mode in the HP graphics control panel. I tested it on a bright CAF table and the matte coating held up, so glare wasn't a daily nightmare. Under the hood sits the Intel Core Ultra 7155U. It's a newer low-power chip that promises up to 4.7 GHz turbo, and in my real-world tests it behaved exactly as advertised for most single-threaded tasks. Opening large Illustrator files or compiling a quick script took under a second. The real surprise came when I opened a 30-minute After Effects composition with multiple 4K layers. The Ultra 7 kept up surprisingly well, thanks to its 8 efficient cores and the 32 GB of LPDDR5 RAM. For someone who does light to moderate video work, this feels snappy. However, if you routinely push 4K render farms or run heavy 3D simulations in SolidWorks, you'll notice the processor throttling after about 15 minutes of sustained load. The fan ramps up, the clock dips a bit, and render times stretch out. It's not a deal-breaker for most creators, but it's a clear sign that the Firefly is tuned for balanced productivity, not raw, continuous compute. Storage is a 512 GB NVMe SSD, and that's where the day-to-day speed really shines. Boot times are sub 10 seconds, and copying a 5 GB project folder from an external drive to the internal SSD took just over a minute. The downside? 512 GB fills up fast if you keep a library of 4K footage, large CAD assemblies, or a bunch of virtual machines. HP does offer a secondary M.2 slot, but it's not hot-swappable, so you'd have to open the chassis, a task that's doable but not something a non-technical user would love. In short, the primary drive is excellent for speed, but plan ahead for expansion if you need more space. Battery life is a frequent pain point for mobile workstations, and the Firefly's 56Wh pack delivers about 6 hours of mixed usage: email, light browsing, occasional Photoshop edits. That's decent for a 16-inch machine, but if you're planning a full day of on-site work without a power outlet, you'll need to bring the charger or a power bank. I found that when the screen brightness is cranked to 100% for outdoor work, the runtime drops to around 4 hours. So, the Firefly is not a run all day on a single charged device, but it's predictable. You know roughly how long you have before you need to plug back in. Now let's talk about the keyboard and touchpad, because those are the things you actually type on all day. The English QWERTY layout feels familiar, and the key travel is modest, not as shallow as a typical Ultrabook, but not a full-stroke mechanical feel either. In my daily notes and code edits, the keys were comfortable enough for long sessions, and the backlight is adjustable in 3 zones, which is handy in dim co-working spaces. The touchpad is large, glass-finished, and supports multi-finger gestures without lag. I didn't encounter any drift or ghost clicks, which is a relief after dealing with some older HP models that were touchy. One hidden trade-off that popped up during my week of testing is the port selection. The Firefly goes for a minimalist approach, 2 Thunderbolt 4/USB-C ports, a single HDMI 2.1, a full-size SD card slot, and a headphone jack. You'll need a dongle or a dock if you want Ethernet, a dedicated USB-A for older peripherals, or multiple external monitors beyond the single HDMI. The good news is the Thunderbolt ports are versatile. They can drive two 4K displays each, but you'll need a proper hub. If you're someone who lives off a docked workstation at home and just carries the laptop for occasional meetings, the port